One of the devs here did respond to another person commenting about the items and the balance and stuff. He said, "Hi, we are aware that critical parts still die too fast, something we accounted for with the early weapon balance update. But as stated above, we had to revert these changes and had to mitigate the part damage as good as we could. Something very high on our list for upcoming improvements." I wonder why. Let's see what's stated above. Why did they have to go back on it? Whoa. Okay, we'll start with this. Naturally, we are also still in active development for the engineering gameplay feature as tested in ISC, and as frustrating as it might sound for some, this requires a lot of attention to get right. For example, the armor system currently is one of the systems that will iterate on quite heavily moving forward, like implementing thresholds so that smaller caliber projectiles cannot damage or penetrate stronger armor. Okay, straight away, I'm going to go and post this on the video that I put out earlier today, because that whole video was like about communication surrounding all of this, and now that, you know, this helps. Continuing on, let's talk about TTD, and TTK, and a little bit about the shield topic, since both topics caused some confusion. You will have noticed we went through various changes throughout the PTU cycle, but fundamentally, we still want ships to be disabled more often than them exploding. We still want to allow players to have access to all the gameplay that comes with disabled ships. It also stands true that experiencing a critical failure or your ship exploding will be mainly driven by the state of the power plant. Currently implemented, there are 4 scenarios where a ship can explode, aka hard death. First scenario: if power plant goes critical after being destroyed and the player fails to repair or remove it in a given amount of time, which is power plant dependent, this shouldn't happen all the time, right? So is he saying it shouldn't explode all the time? Second scenario: if one critical part of the ship is destroyed, aka it is at 0 health, it has a chance to cause the power plant to experience a critical failure. I'm guessing that's from like a glitch? Is the idea that like a critical part sends a glitch to the power plant? He says players still have the option to counteract this by repairing or removing the power plant within the given amount of time. So I'm guessing critical parts include components. In that case, then the idea is not necessarily about the power plant, right? It's about anybody, any component reaching 0 health. But the idea is, if a critical part reaches 0, it only gives the power plant a chance to go into critical. So the power plant's not always going critical in either of these scenarios, it seems. Scenario 3. If the ship is hit by a very powerful projectile that does do a lot of damage, the ship will directly explode. And it just railgun hit should take out an arrow in a single hit. Yes, that's true. 4. If all critical parts are destroyed and the ship is still being shot at persistently, the ship will at some point be fully destroyed and explode. Currently, this is tuned to acquire 10 times the hull damage before this occurs, but is subject to further balance. I think that a lot of us have assumed was waiting on Maelstrom. But it's important. This is basically saying that you've been able to get your power plant out of the ship. Even though it went critical, your ship's completely safe. All of the critical parts might be at 0 on the ship, so all your hull and your components are all at 0. Then with enough damage, your ship will still explode. Honestly, I think that should take a ton of damage, because we don't want people just sitting there exploding ships. Like if somebody disables someone and they're innocent, like it's not a pirate, we should be encouraging even the worst of people to just pass them on and leave, rather than sit there and dump all of their ammo into this ship just because they want to ruin someone's day, right? As you can tell, there is no guarantee for ships to always explode, and we want players to have the opportunity to perform field repairs or board disabled ships. The chance of a ship exploding through critical power plant failure overall is lower than 30%. That's actually pretty good. Lower than 30% is not bad. I like that last bit. The chance of a ship exploding through critical power plant failure overall is lower than 30%. Not bad. He continues by saying, we still want to adhere to established design goals, such as extremely strong weapons having the ability to do some serious damage to lighter and less armored ships, or even take them out in single hits. Okay. So yeah, that's the point, right? That's what they're supposed to do. The ion gun is supposed to go through armor, do some messed up damage to you. And through the patch notes yesterday, shared the changes we did around the ship overkill mechanic did not go into enough detail. We fundamentally want to prevent scenarios where disabled ships are quasi-invulnerable without negating existing gameplay loops like piracy or component salvage. The above is emulating some of the highly detailed physical damage simulation that Maelstrom will eventually bring to Star Citizen. Parts will have structural integrity and will at some point no longer be able to withstand sustained damage and will break apart. So to summarize, ships should be disabled a lot more than they explode. Critical failures should still allow you to recover and escape. Disabled ships can still explode if enough damage is applied. As for shields, we are still working on a fix that causes redundant shields not to auto-activate for ships with more than 2 shield generators. Additionally, the patch notes from yesterday made it sound as if recently we made drastic changes to shield behavior, when in reality, the update was meant to convey how it already functioned in 4.4. Currently, all shield generators contribute to the overall health pool of the shield, but only the powered shield generators contribute to the shield recharge rate. So does that mean you can have more than 2 shields active? Have they changed that? No. Ships will not, there's not a single ship that isn't updated for engineering. This is the lowest level of update they have, but you can still repair. So you won't just explode. They just don't have physicalized components. All right, as a closing, he says, we really appreciate all your feedback and guarantee you that we hear you. We review and digest your feedback daily, have passionate discussions about how to best address your concerns. I hope you understand that we can't reply to all posts, but we do read them, and our excellent player experience team is constantly in touch with you all to keep us in check. We knew that the release of engineering would be a challenge and that due to the amount of changes we've introduced, it can be even trickier to get things right. Some of the balance changes we did early in this PTU cycle have been temporarily reverted to ensure we have a more stable base to balance and eliminate factors that could cause unforeseen edge cases. As mentioned during the recent ISC, engineering gameplay is here to stay, and we still want to do our best work with you and make it the best it can be. Honestly, I'm really glad we got a post like this. I'm not saying that this is gonna make everything great and good and work. I'm just glad that we are getting this amount of clarification on this at this stage, because I think a lot of folks have just been wondering what a good definitive administrative statement that they are still following a lot of the things they've said in the past. And I think these scenarios can help people rest assured that even if we are blowing up still quite a bit in the PTU, it's not the goal, and it's not really what they're looking to try and do. That being said, this is just one look into what's going on with engineering. There's the patch notes, which we went over here. The PTU, the patch notes updates that are coming out. This is the overkill mechanic he was talking about. I haven't seen this yet, so we'll look into what this means. It says, once all ship parts reach 0 health, we activate another health pool buffer. This amount is hidden. Once the buffer reaches 0 health, it will trigger an unavoidable explosion of the ship. If the player manages to repair the hull, the buffer is ignored. If the hull reaches 0 health again, the buffer starts again. You can't repair the hull from the inside of your ship, can you? I don't think you can. So this is the part I'm guessing that was a little bit misunderstood, because in his post he says, here we go. If all critical parts are destroyed and the ship is still being shot at persistently, the ship will at some point be fully destroyed and explode after reaching 10 times the hull damage. So that's what this buffer is. The overkill buffer is 10 times the damage it took to reach 0. They also clarified that multi-shield implementation ships that have more than 2 shields will contribute to the overall shield health. Okay, so that's also a big change that people were hoping for. Even the ones not given power by the generator will contribute to the shield health. That means if you got a shield with power, or maybe you got a couple shields connected to a battery in the future, they're going to be good. This will affect overall regen speed, as the regen speed of up to 2 shields will be used based on power assignment. By default, the shields with the lowest power minimum requirement will be powered first. So basically, it's going to be, they slow down the recharge rate because you're still recharging based on 2 shields, but you get to have a larger shield health pool. I think that's going to make people quite happy when it comes to shields, especially if Redeemer owners. Those things have 6, or no, Retaliator owners. So some engineering updates. We're going to cut this off here because the rest of this guide there's so much. We'll skim through this in a little separate bit because this is already a pretty long one. But we're in the age of engineering, guys. I think we all knew it was going to be pretty tough. We all knew it was going to very much change the game and be turbulent. A lot of us, probably myself included, were hoping that they'd have all the ships changed over since they delayed it for a year. But unfortunately, they don't. So we're in for a tough few patch cycles, I think.